Hey guys, and welcome to the channel. My name is Celine, and today I'm going to be talking about a topic that initially I did not want to touch upon on this YouTube channel. However, as I am making self-improvement content, I don't think I can exclude this topic because it's played such a big role in my life, and it is the base of everything that I'm doing, all the values that I hold. This topic really influences everything I do in my life, and that is my faith. And the thing about faith is that it is a personal journey. It's not something you can push onto someone else. You can't force this idea on someone. And even though I was born and raised in a very religious family, I didn't really take my faith seriously until I had my own personal experience with God. For me to experience that, I needed to go through a very difficult phase in my life, which is during the pandemic. So I would say it's the lowest point in my life at that time, just because there was so much uncertainty. I couldn't even sleep at night because I was thinking of so many things, and I was not the type to get stressed or anything like that. So it was a new experience for me, and right at that lowest moment when I just felt like giving up is when God came to me and he spoke to me through his words. By speaking to me, it's not like, hey Celine, this is what you should do, but he was speaking to me through the Bible. You know that feeling like when you open Instagram or when you open TikTok and there's just that quote that passes by, or like a reel that passes by that really matches the things you are facing in your life, and you're like, that message is for me. Now that was the thing that I experienced the whole time, for the whole month that I got COVID. At that time I was looking at this, my Bible, because I lost so much hope, and since I was a kid, I was trained to always look at the Bible, always look for God whenever you're experiencing difficulties. And I never found the use of it, actually, to be honest, because I don't know, it's just like words in the Bible, and because it's translated from another language, it's a little weird in my opinion, like the way it's phrased and everything. It's very formal, very unfamiliar. But when I read the Bible at that time, every single verse was speaking to me. And every time I would listen to a gospel song, like we have this family altar tradition in our family where we would come together, sing praises to the Lord, then we would read the Bible and we pray together. And that's what I've been doing for so many years, throughout my whole life. And I never felt the magic of it, like what's so special about it. I just did it as a routine, and I continued my whole life that way. And so at that moment when I read the Bible and it was speaking to me, I was like, gosh, this is cool. How is this exactly the thing I'm looking for? Then I thought maybe it was just today. But then the next day came, I read the Bible again, and it still spoke to me again. It went on day by day, every day for the whole month. And every time I would join the Mass, because I'm Catholic, so I would join the Eucharist Mass, what the Father said in that Mass is what the priest says in the Mass is always according to the things I'm thinking about. And when I listen to gospel songs, that song would also be speaking to me. I feel like everything around me, gospel related, is speaking to me. And so that's when I really felt God's presence in my life. And that took me 19 years to experience my first personal relationship with God. And so what pushed me to make this video was because I just went on a silent retreat. Yes, silent retreat for 4 days. So it's a completely offline kind of retreat. You don't have your phone, you're in complete silence, you're with some other people. There were about 20 of us there, and we could not speak to each other. We were not allowed to speak to each other, actually. You can only whisper, and even then, you're not supposed to actually communicate regularly. You only communicate when you need to. So the idea of this retreat was that silence is a very important part of your faith and your relationship with God. the idea of it was really interesting to me. My dad told me about this retreat. So he was like, I'm joining a silent retreat this Monday. And I'm like, silent retreat? What exactly do you do in a silent retreat? And he's like, yeah, we learn about silence and why it's important in our relationship with God. And I did not expect much from it, actually. I was just curious, what kind of retreat is silent? I've joined so many retreats before, and none of them were called silent retreats. There's no such thing as silence in a retreat. You constantly hear the gospel, you are talking to each other, you have teamworks and things like that. So it's a new concept, and I was really interested. So then I'm like, okay, sure. I think it would be an interesting experience. Little did I know, it was one of the best decisions I've made. The reason I say that is because this retreat really opened up my eyes to this faith that I've been holding on to for so long that I don't even fully understand. I would say the Catholic faith is a pretty complicated one. We have lots of rituals. It's like the Eucharist Mass. You have like the opening ritual, and then you have the homily, you have all these sorts of rituals that we just do like a template. You don't fully understand it. At least not for the average Catholic. Unless you go in deeper to your faith, you try to find the answers, you won't really understand. There's so much value that I learned in that retreat about my faith that I wish I had known all this time. Then I wouldn't just be attending Mass like it was just another Sunday gospel news. But like I would really attend it, like I was hearing from God. This is God's communication method to you, and this other part is you responding to God in a way that is very polite and acceptable, in the way that David complained to God, in the way that David appreciated the Lord. You want to answer with psalms because your own words might not be so pleasing. Those kind of things I learned throughout this retreat. Now, the idea behind this retreat was that silence plays an important part of your relationship with God. And why is that so? Now, let's just take an example. Let's say you have 3 friends, and you were to ask them, when are you happiest spending time with me? Now, the first friend goes and says, oh, I love it when we go to the mall together, we go shopping, we go to the cafe, and we order yummy food, we eat that together. Now, the second friend would be like, I like talking with you. I just like talking about anything. It doesn't matter where we go, I just love talking with you. And the third person says, I don't know, I think I'm just happy whenever I'm with you. We don't have to do anything at all. As long as it's with you, I think I'm happy. Now, which of these friends do you think you would treasure the most? For me personally, I would pick the third person. Isn't it so sweet that someone just wants to be with you, no matter what you're doing together? And I think that's the idea behind silence. That's why they say a silent prayer is the most authentic way of expressing your love to God. Because the first friend, the one that likes to hang out, shop together, go to cafes together, that's like us who love spending time with God when He gives us good things. You ask things from God constantly, and He gives it to you, you enjoy them, then you love God, then you pray to Him a lot. Now the second person is someone who just prays to God, like telling Him everything that's happened today, like, yeah, God, today I did this. I wanted to thank you for helping me do this. And yeah, it would be really nice if I could meet that friend again, you know? So you're just like telling things to Him like He's your diary. That's like the second friend who loves talking to you. And now the third friend who likes doing nothing with you is like us spending silent time with God. And so you might be wondering, so okay, I'll be silent when I pray to God, but what exactly do I get from all of this? What do I get from believing in God? living for God, taking this narrow path that makes you so different from everyone else in the world. You're, when you follow God, you're going through a narrow path, a path that most people don't want to go through. You are picking the difficult path. Like, you have to be honest, you have to be kind, you have to be patient, you have to love your enemies. Things that don't make sense in this world. Like, why would you love your enemies? So when you go through this narrow path, it is a journey. You're going through all this hard work. And the father in that retreat even said, I applaud you guys for coming here, because what if you follow God and he's not even real? Like, you don't even know if God is real. And so the promise that God gave us is that he will make you live heaven on earth. What does heaven on earth actually look like? That is a life of peace, of joy, of confidence that God will help you through every season in life. So when something like the pandemic happens, you won't be like panicking. You won't be like, oh no, what about my business? It's like all falling apart. And what about all the people who died around me? What if I lose a loved one? All these stresses that happen in our daily lives. It won't bother you as much. It won't make you crumble. Of course, you will be sad if you lose someone. It would be really, really stressful if you lose everything you've built your life on, like your work or a failed relationship, things like that. But don't you realize that everything in this world seems to be temporary? Not in a godly sense, but seriously, like if you were to look at your goals, okay, I want to reach, let's say $1,000 this month, and then you go and reach $1,000. Then you're like, oh my gosh, yay, I finally got my $1,000. And then you spend it all on things, and then you're like, now what do I do? Okay, let's set another goal. $10,000. Then you go after that, and when you got $10,000, you're like happy for like a few days, weeks, months, I don't know. But eventually you'll come through a reset. You'll look for other things. Remember, like when you buy something, remember that bag you've always wanted, or like your earphones, your phone, something you've always wanted. When you first got it, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna treasure this so much, and then you love it and you use it every day. But as time goes by, you're like, these earphones are getting old, I should get a new one. This phone, not working that well anymore. Change to a new one. We see these kind of things happening in our life over and over again. And that is to prove that humans are never satisfied. We are never satisfied with what we have. The circumstances we're in, we're always chasing after something. We want something better. And isn't that the reason why we also listen to self-improvement videos on YouTube? We try to be better. We want to achieve more. We're seeking for more. The irony to that is that nothing in this world can actually satisfy you. No matter what you think it is. Even though you think like, okay, if I get into a relationship, I'll be really happy. If I meet the one, if I have so many friends that are true to me, if I get my dream job, if I move to my dream city, all of these things will eventually just be flat. It's a normal thing. It's not something that grand. You'll always look for something else to satisfy you. And do you know the one thing that can actually satisfy you? It is God's love. Because humans are created in God's image. God has this infinite heart, like he has infinite love to pour into everyone's soul. And so he designed us that way. Our hearts are like a cliff that goes into like a never-ending hole. And so when we try to fill this up with temporary things, it's like, okay, yeah, it will get into our hearts, but then it's like, gone. And what in this world has that much love to pour into you if it's not God? And so that's what I realized. Like, you can't ever fully be content with your life unless you have something to hold on to, a faith to hold on to, or we're always seeking for something to hold on to, actually. You know, be it our achievements, our job, our status, the amount of luxury we have, the number of friends we have, whether or not your partner really loves you. But the thing that I learned is that everything here, humans, things, achievements, they're all temporary. And what happens? What do you think will happen if someone were to take one of these? If you base your life on achievements, this is something that I'm guilty of, actually. If you base your life on achievements, but then one day you fail on achieving a certain goal, you did not get any achievements, or you did not get that achievement you want, then that will make you disappointed. It will make you sad because you are placing your worth on those achievements. And same goes for like relationships. If you're very dependent on your partner, then if your partner leaves you, then you'll be so heartbroken. Or if you're basing off your happiness of let's say how smart you are. But what if one day you get older, you're not as smart as you used to be, your mind starts slowing down, then you'll feel worthless. You won't even want to live anymore because you're basing things on these things that are temporary, that are situational, that they can always change. And so what I was taught is that you want to place a solid ground, and that solid rock ideally should be God. And this is something that I'm still learning to do. I'm still putting my happiness on things that are temporary, but I am slowly incorporating God in my life as the base. So although I have all these other things that make me happy, I'm trying to slip God into the very bottom as a priority in my life, as a solid foundation for my life. And it's not easy, really. You know, as someone living in this world, you have so many things to take care of. Your work, your spouse, your kids, your friends, your family. Lots of things to bring your mind away from the one thing that you should be thinking of. And now I'm making this video because now that I am quite in this, I would say, holy phase, I want to keep it that way. I want to be inspired when I see my own video to think that I had such faith in how important this was. I want to look back at this video and be like, yes, I'm gonna follow God, you know? That kind of feeling. And at first I had lots of doubts regarding this video. What if this is too specific? I'm talking about my Catholic faith. There aren't that many Catholics in this world. What if it looks like I'm preaching something that I cannot even do myself? And I'm thinking, I don't have to be preaching. I don't have to be teaching. I can just be talking like I would to a friend. Like, yeah, this is what I feel on why God is important, why I think I should prioritize Him in my life. You know, I also had so many thoughts. I wrote them down, actually, when I was thinking about this video. Like, what should I say, you know? I know, I want to get it out right. I want to have this video to be perfect. And we're holding on to this perfectionism. But then I realized that faith is something abstract, It's not something that you can actually make a step-by-step video on. It is something that you have to believe without even seeing, something you believe without even hearing. Very abstract, very personal. It's like someone teaching you how to swim, but you won't actually be able to swim unless you swim yourself. That's how faith is to me. But I did write some things down here that are useful, so I'm gonna go ahead and read some of these. Actually, I'm just gonna read it out to you. We live in a busy world, overloaded with information, instant gratification. We live off of validation. A world where there's so much going on, yet so many people feel lonely and empty. In relevance to success, in this life, no matter what goal you're going after, there'll always be ups and downs, and faith is what keeps you at peace no matter what happens. One thing many people realize is that eventually there's always gonna be another unfulfilled goal we're going after. Never satisfied. And the reason behind that is because God designed our hearts to be infinite, and all the things we go after in this world can only fill it up so much, which makes us lonely. Only God's infinite love is what can fill this unending space in our hearts. We can momentarily fill it up with human love, but it's never ending. You'll keep wanting more and more. As humans are imperfect, there will be times when they disappoint or even leave us, and nothing's permanent except for Him. So I try to prioritize God in my life, and right now I don't have it all figured out. I know I want to be successful in this world, but I don't want to ignore the fact that everything here is just a means to an end. And you know, the thing I love most about God is that He is gentle. He is not forceful in any way. He lets you come when you want to come, and if you go, He won't hold you back. If you don't believe Him, if you believe Him, you know, He's so gentle, and that's His character. He is love, essentially. Now, one interesting question that someone asked during the retreat was, if God is love and humans are created in God's image, then why are there so many evil people in this world? People who heartlessly kill thousands, millions of people. Why is that? And the Father said, God did not make robots. Humans are a paradox, you know? They are made for good, but God wants them to have free will, to choose their own path. He doesn't want us to be like robots, all of us worshipping Him, you know? He wants us to choose Him. Humans are kind of like money. They're kind of like your phone, technology. These things are made for good. Everything is made for good. They're always meant to be used for greater purpose. But of course, there are so many times when people choose to go the other way and use these things for bad. The very thing that was meant to help becomes something that murders, something that destroys. If you say it's the creator's fault, then that's not the answer. It is the person's fault, the person who uses it for bad intention. But let me ask you, when you go to a hospital, do you actually see any healthy people in there? Maybe occasionally, but most of them are sick. Most of them are there for help. They need help from the hospital. And that's the same thing as the church. It is a place where sinners come. Sinners that want help from God. Whether or not the church can help them, whether or not the hospital can help them, it depends on the patient's will to be healed. How much they want to be healed from the sickness. Then they will cooperate with the Lord, you know? They will cooperate with the doctor. Same like people who go to church, whether or not they want to cooperate with God and follow God's will. So the mistake is that people look at the people who come there, and they're saying, oh, that hospital is bad because everyone there is sick. But the truth is, you're not looking at the sick people, you look at the healed people. Oh, many people come out of there and they're healed. They can do so many activities, and it's all thanks to the help of the doctors in that hospital. And same way goes with the church. You don't always find right people, and there are people who are better than others in the sense of their sickness getting better, their faith getting better. It's all different. And you can't just say that a religion is bad because you look at one person and you think everyone is like them. You have to look at the bigger picture. And when you do that, when you look at the God and not the people, is when you can truly see the goodness of God. But there are so many things about religion that we don't understand. So many things about God and faith which are too abstract for us to understand. And it's kind of like a little kid who doesn't understand an adult's conversation. Some kids are quite talented, they're quite smart, so they can understand what the adults are talking about. But the average kid doesn't understand that. And it's only these certain kids who like really try to understand, want to know more, they're curious, they really want to understand. Then the parents would be like, the adults would be, okay, let me try to explain it to you in a simpler way. So it starts with this curiosity, this willingness to learn, that this kid can eventually understand partly of what the adult conversations are about. But whether or not the kid can understand this conversation fully is a matter of time. They need to grow into an adult to eventually understand this conversation. But humans, when I'm talking about this kid, this is about our spiritual maturity. And there will be a time that you get mature enough so that you can kind of understand God's words better. But unlike this adult and kid, where they're both humans and they can sort of understand each other, us and God, it's kind of different. It's kind of difficult to match the level of understanding that he has in his mind when he created humans. That's why we don't understand so many things about this world, about how things are working, why are there so many evil people still suffering, you know? All these kind of things. But regardless of the things you don't understand, when you actually try to follow God and listen to his will, look at him and not the people, then you can find so many things, so much peace, so much joy that you didn't know you can actually achieve in this world. And that is because that's heaven on earth. Like how we can experience hell on earth. Like, you know, if there's so much fight going on, then it feels like hell on earth. And it is in that moment when you actually seek God that you get to feel heaven on earth. And no matter what happens, you're not fazed by it, because in the end you know that this world is temporary, you're only here for a season, a very short season, and that the rest of your life is meant to be spent in heaven. But one thing I forgot to mention earlier was that unlike the hospital and the patients, where every patient can easily meet the doctor and speak to them and get their concerns fixed, the church is a little different. You have to build your relationship with God in order to hear him clearly. So what the hospital is like is you can get personal consultation. But with a church, only some people can listen to God clearly. What gives them the ability to hear God is their intimacy with God. So then those people who've built intimate relationships with God would spread the word. And then people around them who don't have this skill of listening to God would try to follow. But after all, they're not getting a personal one-on-one session with God. And so they might be confused because everyone's life circumstances are different. You're facing something different every day. And so they try their best to copy what these people are saying. And those people who can hear from God are in the Catholic Church. They are the priests. They are the people who would give you the gospel. They would explain it to you. with their understanding. Of course, humans are imperfect. They're trying their best to tell you about it. But can they make mistakes? Of course they can. Most of the time, God will give them wisdom to say what's right. But humans are imperfect after all. And so that's what makes it different. So as a believer, how do you actually increase your intimacy with God? And one of the ways is through prayer. Through prayer, through reading the Bible, through understanding God's character. And this is something that you will eventually find out long on your journey. Faith is like a very long journey. You don't just decide to believe in God and then you have all this faith and all this wisdom and knowledge to live the right life. It's a long run. And so if there are people who are evil, they don't do as God's word says, and then you go and look at them like, what? They're a believer, but they don't even act right. Then that problem is because of their understanding of God's word and their intimacy with God. So you look at the fruits. In the spiritual world, we have spiritual fruits like kindness, goodness, blah, blah, blah. There are like 9 of them. I wish I could mention them. I would list them all here in case I forget. I mean, in case I make a mistake, so it's here. But essentially, when you see someone giving out these traits, then you kind of know that, oh, that means they are in a pretty good position to follow God. You know, their intimacy with God is pretty close. However, if you see a believer and they're doing the exact opposite of these things, then you know, oh, they're still on their journey. I think that is the healthy way to see it. The best way to see things objectively without being disappointed in God and why his believers are not even doing things right. And yeah, I think I just wanted to put that out there through this video. So if you like this conversation and if you think I should do more in the future, please let me know in the comments down below. I hope this helps you with your faith journey. I hope this strengthens your faith somehow. Okay, bye-bye. God bless you. Bye-bye.